Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, here with Ben Wilson about the cards. Going to enjoy hearing his origin story. But first, thanks to my sponsors, Topps Panini and Upper Deck, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, Comcy.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, and Huggins & Scott Auctions. I think that's it. I'm trying to not have sponsor turnover. I like interview and guest turnover, not turnover that never come back. But this is my first opportunity just one-on-one with Ben. I enjoyed the Hobby Hotline experience a few weeks ago. But Ben, welcome to the show. We're going to focus on your hobby origin story, which can include about the cards, which is one of my favorites. Welcome.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. Last night's episode number 92, we had a very interesting comment as a follow-up. One of our loyal listeners, had heard the Hobby Hotline in our discussion about the rookie cards. And he's like, arguing with Dr. Beckett is like talking theology with God. And I thought, how poignant.
I love people that are passionate, and people that don't have opinions aren't much fun. So you have a strong opinion, well defended, and like I said, you kind of caused me to jump back in and look and see historically, whether I don't know, been consistent. I think there's been some evolution, but anyway, let's get to that probably is part of your hobby origin story because you're a big A's collector. But again, how did you get started collecting, and what brought you to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. September 15th, 1986, my cousin turned 10 years old, and I was 7, a couple years behind and hanging out with the older kids. And my aunt had bought a box of 1986 Topps, and every kid at his birthday party got 2 packs. And not really knowing what these were, I growing up, I had a couple of Star Wars cards, mostly the ones with wax on the back. My dad would kind of chuck me some duplicates and throw them in a binder, and I wouldn't call myself a card collector at 5, 6, 7 years old yet. Garbage pail kids and things like that, but nothing major. And 86 Topps the colors were gorgeous. The black borders on the top with the team color, and all the kids around the table were excited because they were pulling all of their favorite players and they knew everybody. And here I am, just like, hey, these are neat. These are different than what I've got in my binder at home. And
where's Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader?
Yeah, it was neat. And I went home and I put them in a binder in no particular order. And going into the following year, my dad, being a big collectible guy, he's big on toy trains. I never shared his passion for that. He got me into card collecting, and I remember him probably around March or so of '87 bought me a Beckett price guide, and I opened it up and I one card by one card went and to look to see how much they were, and I was rich. The 1986 Topps Eric Davis was $1.25 in that particular issue of the Beckett price guide, and I was like, man, I'm going to retire. I'm 7 and I have something worth $1.25, and you start spending that money. And I thought, man, this is amazing. And like most little kids, on the back of the card, you get, just fascinated by the statistics. And 87 Topps came out shortly thereafter, and it was such a beautiful set. We talk about that all the time about the cards, that it's just probably the perfect set outside of maybe, 53 Topps. Is hard to take that one off the perch. But
you're coming across as kind of a numbers guy, but on the other hand, are you the aesthetics? Are you artistic as well? Because that's kind of like both sides of the brain.
My dad and his brother were both painters and did some artwork. I was never, God did not grant me that gift. I draw stick figures, but I love, they are little, they're just, at the end of the day, they're just pictures of men, athletes, male and female on cardboard. They're nothing special outside of what we value them at. And, our value is individualistic. Again, my most valuable card is an 86 Eric Davis that by today's measures is absolutely worthless. The only people that need them are those building the 86 Topps set or Reds team set. And, but yet it's my most valuable. It's not the one that cost the most. And, I even from a young age, it was always that, collect what makes you happy. And back in growing up during the junk wax era, you could pretty much collect just about everything within reason. There wasn't a whole lot of short prints and things. Everything was attainable. Certain things were regional, of course. I grew up in an era where they were releasing Mother's Cookies as stadium giveaways. Here in the state of California, they had the A's and the Giants. I think the Angels and Mariners had some as well. But you could go to all of your local, Revco and Woolworths and things and pick up the little 33 or 44 card sets. And those were great. Topps and Fleer did a fantastic job getting different things into collectors' hands, but you could theoretically collect everything.
Were you
And
collecting everything in those days, or did you pretty quickly settle in on Oakland or the A's? I mean, they were coming on pretty strong in some of those years. Were you a local? I mean, and I was just thinking, I didn't study a bio of you, but you kind of sound like an economics major or something. Are you?
I am. Yeah, I've got. I have a master's in economics, and I'm halfway to a PhD. So I kind of paused school.
Go for it.
Whether or not, it's one of those very ambitious. I was going to wait till my young children. I got a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. Wait till they get a little older, just because it's very difficult to find the time, especially when you're talking about such an ambitious degree.
My heart goes out to you. I don't think I would have made it if I hadn't gone straight through. It's when you take a break and then you come back to it, you get out of the the study mode or not learning mode. I love to learn, but that was a challenging time. But that'd be a cool goal. A lot of hard work, Ben, but that'd be great. It sounds kind of coming out of what you're talking about, that you already think that way. So, and I've always thought that, like I said, there's these both sides of the brain. That I think there's an awful lot of people that collect that got into it because they had some sense of economics or numbers, or that the backs of the cards were just as important as the fronts of the cards. And so you're kind of epitomizing that as well.
It's tough when you have the proverbial, the devil and the angel on your shoulders, because I only collect. I don't think that this is a hobby where you can invest. And I get into many battles on Twitter over the economical side of things. And, it's you're battling your angel versus your demon. Everything that I've done in my entire life, from a business owner to, having an economics degree, speaks of investing in cards or flipping for a profit. And my thought is, I do this because it's a hobby. I love trading cards. I don't buy them and hope that they appreciate in value. Any card that I buy at fair market worth at the time, knowing that most of those cards will go down in monetary value over time, because you're buying them right off the truck, more or less. And of course they're going to depreciate. And the only time I would care remotely what my collection is worth is if I got to a place where I had to sell it. And if that's the case, I'm willing to accept pennies on the dollar anyway, because I'm desperate for money at that point.
Well, I really respect people that their walk matches their talk, because some of what you're saying, I think some other people might say that, but then they don't do that. They'll So, but how do you fund your hobby then? You just have some extra money to pour in there. If no money's coming out and only money's going into it, do you budget for it, or you just kind of are? Because like I've told people, I'm more opportunistic. I'll go to a show. I don't know how much I'm going to spend, but I'm just looking for things that are interesting. And so how do you handle that?
Well, you've got to, and this is a very broad, we're painting with a very broad stroke here. You have to understand your own personal budget. I've paid my bills in an Excel file throughout the rest of this calendar year, assuming that my income doesn't change. I know every bill that's coming out of every paycheck, and I know how much money I've got left over. And therefore I can make decisions knowing that, hey, 2 weeks from now, I'll have X amount of dollars left over. So if I want to overspend on going to the Bay Area, and taking the family on a trip, we can, because we know we have the money, or we know we have to pull back a little bit because money's going to be a little tighter this month versus last or next. And, understanding your personal finance is extremely important, because it's really easy to fall down the rabbit hole. We were talking about this on our podcast. I've built a few extra Donruss parallel team sets of the A's, not because of course you want them. They're cards I don't have. Of course I want them, but I don't necessarily need them. I've already built 3 team sets. Do I need a 4th? And, Gypsy Queen, I built the green retail, the silver monster box, and the missing nameplate. Do I do the logo swap? At what point do you say, what, enough is enough? And, your finances, I don't want to start pulling into my household funds of my gas money and my mortgage money. And right now is a very difficult time for the country, for the world. And I would hate to see people, because they're bored, spending themselves into either poverty or further into debt.
Well, I did that, the kind of one of the antidotes against, being addicted or being too into it is somebody that never sells. So to be a person that never sells, you really, which I think you're exemplifying, that you're highly disciplined. And if people are listening, unless they are you and have your level of discipline, they're going to have trouble doing what you're doing. But it sounds like it works for you, and it's something that you can enjoy on a level that you appreciate, because it sounds like, because I started out being a completist, and then after a while you realize you just can't get everything, and then
Right.
you have to make choices. And I made the decision, not, I don't think you get mad at me, but I just thought, I can't collect everything. And so the other stuff I don't need, I'm going to, back in the day, if you go back in the 70s, there were a lot of trades. So it wasn't like, in fact, it was better to trade than to buy. People, they didn't want to sell their best cards, but they would trade them more quicker than they would sell them. And so a lot of trading. And so that I would trade what I didn't want for stuff I did. But then, and I'm part of the problem, I guess, because the price guides put kind of values on everything, and then people were selling, and then it became a lot more financially driven, that each card had a price. And again, that's not bad. It probably was inevitable, but, and again, I always said it provided a medium for exchange, but people wanted to trade their cards for dollars than rather than cards.
Everything's financially motivated. We trade our life, our time, for money. And what do we spend that money on? We spend that money on goods and services, right? I would rather pay somebody to do my lawn and do it myself. I exchange my money for food and for gas and for entertainment. And so, yeah, cards had to have a monetary value associated, because we needed to know the market's interpretation of what a Mickey Mantle was worth versus, say, just some random player from some random team from that same release. We need to know that, the market dictates one was worth more than the other. And so, the Beckett price guide that to this day dons your name is extremely valuable, even if it's somewhat antiquated based on, being print versus, the fluidity of, websites such as eBay and ComC and others.
Okay, I'm not sure whether you said the price guide was antiquated or that I was antiquated. It probably
just the print guide.
At this point, we're pretty much out of time, Ben. Trying to keep it to 15 minutes, and you're far more interesting than 15 minutes worth of interview. So I want to get you back for another episode pretty quick here. But thanks for sharing your story. Again, I think if people listen to this, they're going to see that it sounds. I thought that you seem to be pretty consistent to what you're saying, because most of the people that I know that I've enjoyed getting to know better of the podcasters, maybe a couple of them got into it for the money, but I think most of them got into it because they wanted it's like a digital hangout. So I'm enjoying it. I think you are. You got some good buddies that you're Stefan and Tim, Big Chef, that you're doing it with. So that's cool. So any last comment, Ben?
The only thing that, to end on a positive note is, define your PC however you would like. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to change. Just stay within your financial means and collect what you like. That's why I collect nothing but A's. At the end of the day, when I open up a binder, it's all I want is A's cards. I don't need random Brewers cards. They're not going to enhance my personal collection. And, if you like to collect shiny stuff, there's plenty out there. If you like to collect high-end autos and relics, there's out there. There's a market for everybody. And understand your socioeconomic, presence, what you can afford, and do what makes you happy. Because after all, this is a hobby.
Well said, Ben. Everybody always says, be true to yourself, but Ben's added this additional precursor that you need to know yourself to be true to yourself. And so Ben's, I guess, done enough introspection to know what works for him. Like I said, his walk is consistent with his talk. So thanks, Ben. Thanks, listeners. I'll be back again with another episode tomorrow, and be sure to check out About the Cards, which comes out every Thursday?
Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific.
Eric's on there. Okay. Well, thanks, Ben. Be back again tomorrow, guys.